Namaste, Ninth Limb. This is Chris, and I'm also doing this as a Facebook Live. So if you on this camera see me look up at this camera, that's because it's the computer camera. This is a tongue relaxing sequence. Now, why would we want to relax our tongue? What's the importance of that? There's a few reasons, and a lot of it has to do with how our nervous system allows us to process emotions, process our own thoughts, and there's three kinds of nervous system functions. We won't get into the third one because it's just not relevant. It's almost like its own separate component. But in normal day living, there's parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system operations. And we commonly refer to this as fight or flight, which would be sympathetic nervous system, or rest and digest, which is like calm nervous system, parasympathetic. These modes of operation from our nervous system manifest as muscular tension a lot of times, or an inability to access certain muscles. For example, if you're in a fight or flight mode, it's very difficult to isolate and engage very refined muscles, very deep core postural muscles. But you tend to recruit the larger muscle groups easier. If you're in a parasympathetic mode, rest and digest, it's easier to get the deeper muscles like psoas, or the muscles of the shoulder blade, or something like that, even your diaphragm. But it's a bit, it takes more mental effort to recruit the bigger muscles, pec major and glute maximus and things like that. So a few of the really key indicators to am I in parasympathetic mode or am I in sympathetic mode? Eventually you'll just have an internal sensation, you'll be like, I can tell. But the key physical datums are clenching in the fingers, clenching in the toes, which you might not realize clenching in the fingers, but if you're holding your own hand or your wrist or in some way fiddling with something, that's you're triggering the muscles that are at the ends of the fingers, that control the ends of the fingers. So that's very sympathetic. And same with your toes. If you're standing and you're clenching your toes to keep your balance, that's a sympathetic indicator. Two other things. One is the breath. Depending if you're doing like a physical activity, it might be a very heavy kind of breathing. But if it's just normal sitting, you can be in a sympathetic mode just sitting at the computer. A lot of times, you know, when I was finishing my PhD, there's a lot of times that I'm like super focused on what it is that I'm doing. And before I know it, I'm having these shallow, really upper chest kind of breaths, which is the same breath pattern as like being frightened or having anxiety, something like that. So no matter what you're doing, you could be engaging sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic. So the breath, toes clenching, fingers clenching, the breath. And the third thing I would say is the tongue. The tongue, if it's clenching the roof of the mouth, if it's pressing against the sides of the teeth, if you're creating some kind of suction in your mouth, this is mind. Mind is engaging if the tongue is engaging. And especially if it's chronic or unconscious, that's unconscious mind that's engaging. And we don't often think of mind as a sort of thing that engages like a muscle, but just think of it as like your mind is churning. Systems are running. Programs are running in the background. And that's the tongue clenching. You'll really understand this a lot when you do pranayama, which shout out, or this is my little plug, on August 15th, primary series Ashtanga Pranayama comes out. And I'm very excited. It's a very comprehensive program from my last trip in India. But as a kind of a precursor to any kind of pranayama, as a really useful skill for meditation, and also anybody that speaks. Like I speak a lot. I speak at conventions. I teach yoga, and I'm just making videos a lot, so I'm talking a lot. And to have a clearer, crisper, more understandable speech, control of the tongue is important. Control and relaxation, just as in Hatha Yoga, having the ability to engage and contract a muscle is equal and opposite oftentimes to the ability to disengage and relax the muscle. A lot of us are just kind of floating in this in-between place, and that drains energy, because if we don't need to engage the muscle, we should just kind of relax it, put it in hibernation. And so without further ado, this is the tongue relaxing sequence. We're not going to do it for very long. You can practice it for as long as you want, once you get it down. It's going to involve some mudras with the tongue, excuse me. And without further ado, let's begin. And if at any time, Pranabam Pablo, if at any time you have a question or comment, just type it, and I'll do a little Q&A at the end if there is any. Okay, so for the first, Rebecca, you're going to know the very first mudra we're doing was Rebecca and I met in India at BNS's Shala. And so this is Nabo Mudra, very similar to Kechari Mudra, which is the space maker. Kechari means to make space. And so you flatten the tongue, you descend it back, and you curl the tongue back almost as if you could touch the tip of the tongue to the back of the throat. Now, some people, they have really flexible tongues and they can get it all the way behind, I think it's called the uvula, and send it up their throat. We're not trying to do something exotic like that. You just curl the tongue up and back, and that's the first stretch, stretching the bottom of the tongue. So we'll hold this for 5 or 10 short breaths. Keep the face and cheek muscles as relaxed as possible. You want to engage nothing but the tongue if possible. Good, and then send the tongue outwards, flatten it, and just keep thinking out and down and broad. Those are the vectors of force and intention with the tongue. I know it's weird, I'm like sticking my tongue out at you guys, but we'll do 3 reps of this. Pull it back and extend. And take it back again, Nabo Mudra. And really focus on the tongue originates essentially at the root of the throat. The sensation of it, because of how the fascia connects, goes all the way to the heart. Keep doing Nabo Mudra. So think of the heart is the root of the tongue, and you're pulling it all the way back to the back of the throat. And then send it forward and flatten it. Breathe naturally, relax the jaw. Push out all the way from the heart. And one more time, take it back. And send it out. And flatten it, broaden it. Good, so we're going to do circles. This way, I don't think it really matters which way you go first. I like to go counterclockwise as I'm looking down my tongue, and I'm doing circles around from the bottom right teeth to the top right teeth to the top left teeth to the bottom left teeth in that counterclockwise circle. I do 5 to 10 or until you fatigue. And then go the other direction, clockwise with the tongue. You may have found going one way or the other was more tricky coordination-wise. That's good. We want to bring balance. So we're going to do the opposite of Nabo Mudra. We curl under now. I forget what the flesh is. There's like that kind of thin part under the tongue. We're trying to touch that. You curl it as much under as you can. Like this, straight in. We'll do for 5 or 12 or 10 breaths. Relax it, and now we're going to curl it back and under. There's the last 2. Back and under, but to the left. So back and under to the left, and then we'll do back and under to the right. So it's the same thing we just did, but we take it a little bit to the left side. If you're just joining us, we're doing tongue stretches, contractions, and relaxation. Release it, and then curl it underneath and push it to the right. So over top of itself and then to the right. Relax as much as you can. Relax the temples, relax the deep eye sockets, relax the jaw muscles under the cheekbones. Just engage the tongue. Under and to the right. Breathe naturally. Relax the tongue, and we'll do the last mudra, which Rebecca will remember, Manduka Mudra. We won't get into the mythology and the philosophy of it. Basically, you take it back almost like the very first gesture, the Nabo Mudra, but the tip of the tongue touches the soft palate. The palate is the roof of the mouth. In the front, right behind the teeth, is the hard palate. As you go backwards, it's the soft palate before you reach the uvula, which is that thing that hangs down. So you take the tip of the tongue back to the soft palate, and then like a windshield wiper, you just go left and right, left and right, left and right. And it's not quite, Kachari is all the way back. But this one just goes halfway back and then like a windshield wiper. Okay, and you just do it until your tongue fatigues. Keep the face as relaxed as possible. Super important. We are distinguishing and clarifying the tongue from all the other facial muscles. And that's part of being a good speaker, the kind of speaker that people can hear and understand. And it also will bring a lot of relaxation to your face. So last mudra, Manduka mudra, take it back to the soft palate, windshield wiper. You should be able to get like 100 in at least. Go ahead. Good. Now, if you had a sweet or a sour flavor come down the throat, swallow that. Supposedly, that is a kind of poison that your body generates in the mythology and philosophy that BNS shared with us. It's just very old school Hatha yoga. And nonetheless, it's very, very useful for the coordination of the tongue, mobility, and you probably feel a bit more relaxed and calm now. And this is because, like I said in the beginning, the tongue is one of those gateways into the parasympathetic nervous system. The fingers, the toes, the tongue, and the breath. The part of the breath includes the diaphragm, but there's also a pelvic diaphragm that is kind of a reflection, if you will, of, or it's a duplication of the abdominal diaphragm. So the pelvic diaphragm, which is between the pubic symphysis and the tailbone, actually contracts and relaxes very similarly to the abdominal diaphragm in conjunction with your breathing. So that's a very fascinating little thing. But I can't look at somebody and be like, your pelvic diaphragm is not toning correctly. It's, that'd be weird. So toes, fingers, breath, tongue. And I'm going to end this YouTube video now. Everybody else, you can stay on if you have any questions about what we covered or any questions at all. I'll just answer them now. August 15th, Ashtanga Primary Series Pranayama comes out, and stay tuned for that. If you go ahead, my friends are doing this sort of thing, so I'll do it too. I have a new product that came out was a hand mudra for all the chakras, and it's a guided meditation. I'll go ahead and give that to someone for free. You share the feed, and I'll choose somebody who, randomly someone who shared who doesn't already have the product, and I'll just go ahead and send that product to you for free. I'll get your email, and we'll do that. But if you're on YouTube, you missed that opportunity. So namaste, like the video, share, and subscribe.